Hello, I'm Larry Wilson. Please join me for another 5-minute Bible study. This is part 5 in our study on end-time events. To keep each study as short as possible, I have to assume that you have viewed the previous videos in this series. If you haven't seen them, please watch them first. I'm asking you to do this because apocalyptic prophecy is additive in nature. Before God's wrath begins, God will select and empower 144,000 prophets to speak for Him. When God's wrath begins, they will say, "The end of the world has come. God's wrath has just begun, and His wrath will not cease until the whole earth is destroyed." Do not believe the solution presented by the leaders of Babylon. The religious and political leaders of the world do not know God's plans. Jesus will soon appear, and He will save everyone who worships Him. He will destroy everyone who worships the beast. So if you want salvation, Jesus Christ, the Creator of heaven and earth, commands everyone to disobey the laws of Babylon and rest on His seventh-day Sabbath. This declaration will produce a great test of faith, because in its efforts to appease God, the beast will require everyone to worship God on Friday in Muslim countries, on Sabbath in Israel, and on Sunday in Catholic and Protestant countries. The big problem in Israel and in Muslim countries will be that of recognizing the deity of Jesus Christ. The big problem in Catholic and Protestant countries will be that of letting go of Sunday as a day of worship. The big problem in communist countries will be that of admitting that Almighty God does in fact exist. And the big problem for Eastern mysticism, Hindus, Buddhists, and so forth, will be admitting that their gods are inferior to the authority and power of Jesus Christ. The declarations of the 144,000 will ignite a firestorm of religious controversy. The leaders of the crisis government will become furious with the 144,000 because they will undermine the seriousness of their efforts, and they will be a constant insult to their authority. The leaders of the world will be fully convinced that they are doing right, but the 144,000 will be speaking for God, and this conflict will put the people of earth in the valley of decision. I'll say more about God's Sabbath in the next study. For now, I want to highlight 3 things. First, the Sabbath is not a Jewish day of rest. The Sabbath was created on the 7th day of creation, and God's Sabbath existed for millennia before any Jews existed. Second, when Jesus spoke the 10 Commandments from Mount Sinai, He commanded everyone to keep holy the 7th day of the week, because He rested from His work of creating the world on the 7th day. His Sabbath is a memorial to the fact that He is the Creator of earth and all that is in it. Third, most Christians do not observe God's 7th-day Sabbath because they have been led to believe that the 10 Commandments were nailed to the cross. But the 10 Commandments were not nailed to the cross. The New Testament clearly says, quote, "There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from his own work, just as God did from His." Hebrews 4, 9 and 10. When and how did God rest from His work? He rested on the 7th day. We will explore this fascinating topic in our next study and how it fits into the Great Tribulation. But now I want to close with this thought. The Bible predicts the religious and political leaders of the world will do everything possible to keep people from worshiping God for 42 months. There will be severe penalties for violating the laws of Babylon. But don't forget, the death penalty will be imposed on all of God's enemies. Just before the 7 last plagues begin, the world will consist of 2 camps. One camp will be opposed to God's Sabbath rest. The other camp will be faithfully obeying God's command to worship the Creator on His 7th day. At this point in time, then Jesus will do an amazing thing. He will show the whole world the Ark of the Covenant which is in heaven. Revelation 11:19 says, "Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within His temple was seen the Ark of His covenant." Why does God show the Ark of His covenant to the whole world? For several reasons. Here's an important one. God will show the world the importance of His law. The 10 Commandments are called His covenant, and they are kept inside the Ark of His covenant. Even though men will argue the 10 Commandments were abolished at the cross, a great surprise is in store. We will examine this topic more closely in our next segment. I'm out of time. Please bookmark this video, share it with your friends, and hurry on to part 6.